Hi everyone, this is Mary Jane from Art Viva, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to do the foundation row after you've done your chain stitch. So I'll just make a slip knot. I'll put the slip knot onto my hook. I'll quickly chain five stitches. That's what we're going to work with today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your foundation row is always a bit more fiddly or a bit more difficult than your consecutive rows. So after completing the 5 chain stitch, you'll look at your work and you'll see the chain stitches can resemble a V, so they have 2 strands, so 2 sides, 1 strand either side. So if I lay my work horizontal, it will look like I've got a top strand and a bottom strand. And for the purpose of the foundation row, we're going to use the top strand only. That is the strand that's away from us, not the one that's closest to us. And we always miss the first chain stitch because the first chain stitch serves as an edging. Okay, so I'm going to get my crochet hook and I'm going to put it through the top strand. And once I've done that, I'll just give my work a wiggle, holding my crochet hook in my right hand. I put my index finger on the 2 stitches there. With my left hand, I bring the working yarn over from the back and towards the front. Now holding again the work with my left hand, I glide the hook back towards my right. This time I just go through the first stitch only, the stitch that I put my hook through, and once I've done that I can pull it down. Remember, your first row being the foundation row after the chain stitch will look a bit average, but persevere and it'll look good. Okay, so again, put your working yarn from the back over to the front, and again this time come through both stitches. I'll do that again. So I'm on my second chain stitch, so there it is. That one, you can see I've worked into that one. It looks big, but don't worry about that. So now I've identified my second stitch to work into, so which is really your third stitch because we missed the chain stitch, but we'll put our hook through that top strand, wiggle your work to become vertical, hold the work in your right hand on your hook, bring your yarn over from the back to the front, quite relatively loosely so your work doesn't twist around the hook. Okay, so we're only going to come through the first stitch at this time, work through. Oops, sometimes you miss it and you have to do it again. That's okay. Come through. You can glide it through with your thumb if you want. So now I've got 2 stitches. I'm on some wool around from the back to the front, holding my yarn with the base with my left hand. Glide your hook back towards the right. This time bringing that yarn, that working yarn, through both loops, and if it's a bit fiddly, glide it through or help with your thumb on your left hand. So we've done 2 double crochet. Now for the third one, here we go. Again, pushing through the top strand only, wiggle your work down, hold it with your right hand if you want, bring your wool from the back to the front. Now change hands again, holding it with your left hand, glide it through just the first stitch only, and your wool round again, and this time back through both. There we go. Now we're into the last chain stitch. That's number 4. This is our 4th double crochet in the foundation row. In the top loop only, wiggle your work around, bring your working yarn from the back to the front, bring it through the first stitch only to begin with. There we go. You can see it again. A bit more yarn with your yarn from the back to the front, Now this time through both. There we go. I've just completed 4 double crochet, and at the end of each row do chain 1. Okay, now we're going on to the next row of the chain stitch. So you put your work down and you turn it from your right to your left, like turning a page in a book. Okay, so now to do your next row of double crochet, always remember we will miss that first stitch, which was basically your chain stitch, because it serves as a purpose, edging purpose, and we will start working in what we call the second stitch. And at this time you can see the V's again quite clearly, but we're going to work through both strands of the top of the double crochet, and you'll do that consecutively now from here on in for a double crochet stitch. Okay, so with your hook in your right hand, push through both strands. There you go. It may look like you've got 3 strands on your hook, which you do, but it's really only 2 stitches. Again, you can hold your work in your right hand if it's comfortable, whilst you bring your working yarn over from the back to the front, and you come through just that first stitch only. Again, put your yarn from the back to the front, and now you come through both stitches. Okay, so we've just done 1 double crochet. We'll do another, and that's, you can see both strands. Okay, I'm going to put my hook through both strands, wiggle my work around if I like. So remember, it looks, I do have 3 strands on my hook, but that is actually 1 stitch. So I bring my yarn from the back to the front, and I'm going to come through that 1 stitch, and now I have 2 stitches. From the back to the front, glide round through both stitches. And it's a lot easier if you keep your wool quite loose as you're learning, because it's easier to get your hook and your wool through each stitch. And don't worry if it's too loose and messy looking, because the more you practice, the better you will become. So this is purely learning how to crochet and be comfortable and happy doing it. So again, it's into the 3rd stitch, with the 2 strands on the first stitch on my hook, around the wool from the back, come through, wool around, and you will find, and I'll come through both stitches, you will find as you go along, you will find if you're comfortable holding the wool in your right hand. There are different methods. I have in the instructions where you can put the wool over your laid over your 3 fingers, back out and around your top finger, your index finger if you like, if it's easy. The last stitch can be a bit more difficult to see, but always make sure that you do crochet into it, otherwise you'll have less stitches. Like we've crocheted into 3 at the moment, we need to do the 4th one. And that's why sometimes just having 4 stitches on to work with, it's a lot easier because you can keep count. Okay, so I'll go through that stitch, wiggle it around. Again, you know, it does look like you've got 3 stitches on your hook, but you've only actually got 2, because those 2 are 1 stitch. Over from the back to the front, bring that round, come through, bring that round and come through. So we've just completed another row. So we'll chain 1 because it's at the end of the row, and we will turn our work from right to left, and your right to start again.